of becoming, process, perception. So phenomenologists don't look at what is, they look at how we come to know what is. So what methods do you think phenomenologists would look at to find out about society? What methods would they use? Interpretivist methods or empiricist methods? Interpretivist methods. Short-term or long-term? Long-term, because they're looking at the process. All right? Now let's just do realists, just to make sure. At the beginning of this class, you are very good at this. Let's look at here. Realists, in order for realism, they are structuralists, aren't they? Realists are structuralists. You can't find out about society, you have to look at the underlying causes. So you still do empirical research, and often, as in the guide, you use triangulation. Different ways of looking at the same thing. So again, the methods that people will use will depend on their ontology and their epistemology. Now, finally, you've got to do something for me. This one, ethnomethodology, is a lovely one, right? Ethnomethodology. How do ethnomethodologists find out about society? Have you done it yet? How do they find out about society? You break the rule to show there's a rule. So you go home and say, Mr. Chan, Mrs. Chan, can I come in? And your brother thinks you're completely mad. He himself sat in the middle of his class with his back to the class for half an hour, waiting to see what they would do. You break the rules to demonstrate that there are rules. You break the rules. So you use what type of methods? What type of research design? Easy. No, absolutely not. Experiment. You're doing experiments. It's not ethnographic, it's experiments. You're actually breaking a rule to show what happens, right? All right. Now, putting it together. There are research strategies. The two major research strategies are quantitative and qualitative. Research designs, what are research designs? There's four major research designs in the guide are the four: experiment, survey, ethnographic, and comparative. And each one of those will have its various methods. In the guide, in chapter 3, there is a link between the epistemology, theory of knowledge, and methods used. Now, before we go, you have some work to do for me. What I want you to do is, please, what are the choices which will affect the sociology research design? All right? So let's do the first one. I want you to list all the different choices which will reflect the research design. Right? What will affect the choice of research design? Right? Have a go. Have a go, discuss. And I'm going to take these sweets away and give it to the best table. Right. Now, list all the choices that are going to affect the research design. What I suggest you do is throw ideas, throw those around, right? Worried, all right? Give me the major reason on research design. Major reason about why people choose a particular thing. Well done. The ontological assumptions of the sociologist. You see, all of you went on about the nature of the problem and this and that. It's the ontological assumptions. The questions you're going to ask are going to be very different according to what you think society is. If you think society is something which can be measured, that existed internally, you're going to do it that way. If you think social life is meaningful, you're going to look at meanings. If you look at societies made up of rules, you break the rules. All right, well done. This table. Give me another reason. Another effect. Another one. They're all right, the things you said before, but tell me another one, the easy one. Oh, right. Epistemology. Their nature, their epistemology. So write it down, epistemology. What would they take to justify? What do they think is valid research? What do they think, what is valid? Epistemological considerations. What is their theory of knowledge? Epistemology, right, 2. Right, did you get that? Oh. That's what we spent such a long time doing. Remember I said that interpretativists will distrust? Your statement is not white, all right? Because I interpret it differently. They distrust empiricists. Empiricists distrust you lot, interpretativists, because it's too subjective. So if you're an empiricist, you're not going to use interpretive research. All right. What else? Now, easy one. For you, what else determines research? What? No, that's rationality is a research, is an epistemological thing. No, don't worry, now you can go to the easy ones, all right? You've had one before. Ethical considerations disappeared, right? Mr. Ethics has disappeared. Ethical considerations. Ethics. Have you got informed consent? Ethical considerations. Which examples are bad ethical considerations? Which are bad ethically? What? Covert research, yes, particularly Lord Humphreys. Tea room trade, yeah. It's very bad. You should not do that type of research. It's not good. All right. What? Ethical reasons. You have to have ethical clearance. What have you got? Another reason? What else have you got? Tell me what it is and I can say. Yeah, all right. It's difficult to deal with sensitive issues. It's very clear. It's very difficult to deal with sensitive issues. Is the question too sensitive? You're not actually going to look at what it feels like to lose a loved one, right? You've got to be careful. The sensitivity issues or access issues. Again, can you get access to things? Access. Right, Minter? Write it down. Write it down. Access. So, for example, much research is done on the poor, the people that can't say no. For example, you have got Goffman in mental institutions. You've got James Patrick in an approved school. You've got Eileen Barker on Moonies. You haven't got research done on cabinet ministers. Have you got access? Is it too sensitive? James Patrick, go again, you haven't got informed consent. Right, the nature of the problem. You said the nature of the problem. If you're looking at how many, who, what, why, you can use empirical statistics. If you're looking at reasons why or processes, you're going to do interpretive research. Now, why have I spent time doing this with you now? Is because there's always a question on, there's an area that you have to find out. Sometimes they will say, taking an ethnographic research design, choose a method and explain why. Right? Now, I haven't said what the problems are, right? I have in a way, because I've said you can criticise the empiricist way interpretatively, and you can interpret this empirically. You can do that way, right? Now, can you open your page, chapter 3? Open chapter 3. I'm finishing in this, I promise you. Open chapter 3. So you can have confidence. Chapter 3. All right. Chapter 3. I know, I just give you too tired. Chapter 3. All right, chapter 3. And remember, you don't need to have much more than this chapter, and it's not in many textbooks, because Steve Taylor, who wrote it, is a realist, and this is the sort of thing that realists are interested in. That's why I've spent some time with you, right, explaining it. So first of all, we've done ontology, all right? Ontology. We spent some time about the nature of society. Then we talked about epistemology, about the nature of science. Then we talked a bit about positivism. And remember, I say positivism is more than is here. You need to know about Auguste Comte and things like that. And then we talked about empiricism. Then we talked about interpretivism. Then we linked interpretivism with the methods used. Verstehen we did before, methods. Then we looked at realism, the underlying causes. All right? So we finished. So we've made that linkage. Now, can I suggest that you take this home with you during the next week, read it, and go over it, add what I've given you, to this, and think about the sort of questions we can ask. In the exam, we can say, what is positivism? What is phenomenology? What is realism? Remember how you do a what question? You put it in its domain. Say what it's not, and say what the major features are. Thank you very much, and incredibly you stayed awake.